All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live. I do apologize. We are running a couple minutes late here, just trying to get things set up. So hopefully, I think I've got everything set up now. So if someone can let me know if everything's working, audio, video, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're at. So awesome to see a few people joining in. So we'll start with our quiz. So I'll get the questions up. So tonight's quiz question is multiple choice as always, and it's what is the average tax return refund? So is it A, 2450, so 2,450, B, 2,820, C, 1,170, or D, 44,000? So get your answer in, chuck it in the comments. And yeah, so for those that are new here, we start off with the quiz. We do this every week. So tonight, and then we'll go into our topic. So it's tax time eve. We've got tax times coming up tomorrow. We're at 30th of June tonight. Tomorrow's 1st of July. So we get started. My life gets nice and busy, which I'm really looking forward to. So that's what we're going to talk about. Just tax time in general. How does tax time work? What's the go? When you can do your return? All that kind of stuff. And then what I'll touch on is a couple questions to ask through the week. And then, as always, chuck any questions you've got in the comments, and I'll get to them as we go. So I can see, awesome, we've got a few people joining. We've got a few guesses coming through. So we've got someone's guessed C here. So 1,170. We've got a B. So 2,820. Another one for 2,820. We've got a 1,170, although I wish it was 44 grand. Yeah, that would be nice. Hey, that could be the average. I don't want to spoil it. We've got a C, so 1,170. So we've got a split at the moment of two C's. We've got three C's, two B's, and one wishful for D. No one's going to guess A at all. So, and what I will mention, and this is the first time we've done it on the live, is that if you stay tuned, because in about the middle of the session, before we jump into questions, I'll have a special tax time offer through my business that will only be accessible for those that are watching this live. So if you are watching the replay, unfortunately, this is just for the ones that have supported and watched it live. So a special, probably about 10, 15 minutes in after I finish talking about tax time, before I jump into the question time. So, all right, that gets us to, we've got a few questions in. So I will reveal the answer, and the answer is $2,820. So that would have been option B, I believe. Let me just quickly jump back. Yeah, option B. So we did get a couple get that right. Well done to a couple here. Chris, well done. Awesome. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Ashton, well done. So we got two of B that have got that one right. So well done to you guys. Unlucky, although it would have been nice if it was 44 grand. I'm sure that would make my job fun to tell everyone, oh, yeah, you're getting $44,000 back. So I actually got this fact from the Barefoot Investor in his weekly email that he sent out earlier this week. So he'd quizzed the ATO. So it said as of 17th of June 2021, the ATO had issued more than 10.83 million individual tax return refunds, and they totaled to just over $30.5 billion. So the average refund was $2,820. So you can see it's definitely worth getting your tax return done. I've seen it before with clients that have left it for a number of years and got refunds for all those years. So you can see it definitely can be worthwhile getting your tax return done. If you're sitting on, $3,000, that's $3,000 of your dollars that have been sitting there with the government for a long period of time that you're eligible to get. So make sure you get your return done. And, if you're getting a refund, as soon as you've got your information together, you might as well get it done. So thanks. Hey, I appreciate everyone that's joining us, leaving a comment. Really love that. So as I said, we'll jump into tonight's topic. So pretty much tax time starts tomorrow. So tomorrow is the 1st of July, which means tonight is the end of our financial year in Australia. So our financial year runs from 1st of July, 30th of June. So I'm sure, as you probably have seen, there would have been a lot of push for advertising to, get those last minute tax deductions in. I know I ran around and did a couple of things today that I had needed to do. People trying to work out what their tax liability is, where they're going to sit, and today was the last day to get that done. Tomorrow we start the new year. So pretty much what's happened now, there's not a lot you can do then after today. So that's why it's important to get everything done by 30th of June and have an idea of where you're at. So, especially as you're saying to get into something more advanced, you want to have an idea of, how much tax am I going to be owing? Is there stuff I could do to reduce that? And then start to, as you more get your head around that, you might start to go, well, how much refund would I be likely to get? And then you can start to plan around that. Because the worst case scenario is you're in the position where you think you're going to get a big refund and you're not. So, yeah, so that's the exciting thing. It starts tomorrow. The next one I want to talk about is like, when can you do your return? So obviously this is something that people want to know. You can start preparing, with my tax software through an agent, I can start preparing returns a couple of weeks ago to start doing that. So there's a couple that I did start trialing out and, putting some figures in to give an idea to those clients of where I think they'll end up. Through the MyGov system, again, there's things that you're going to have to start waiting on. So what you need to do is wait until you've got all your information together. So gone are the days where you'd get a group certificate or a payment summary. There are still some people that will receive them, some government ones, which I just find bizarre that there's some government ones that are behind on this other stuff. But pretty much what you're waiting for is your employer to turn your information tax ready. So they have a single touch payroll system now. I won't go into the details of that, but pretty much they're going to finalize your information with the ATO, and that makes it tax ready. So when can you do a return? When all your information is tax ready. So if you're only waiting on employment income, all you've done is work, you don't have investments or rental properties or businesses, anything like that, you're waiting on that. And then obviously once you know, okay, everything's tax ready, you then got to start checking through, okay, those other things such as, okay, am I waiting on bank interest? Which, you can probably get the bank interest stuff through your banking app, through your statements, etc. Do you have shares? Have you got your dividends information? You got managed funds, ETFs, LRCs? Have you got those tax statements? And then have you got a rental property? Again, have you got an owner's statement from your agent if you're going through them? Have you got your final month's interest? All those kind of things. So what the key is when all your information is ready is when you can do your return. And that's going to differ from person A to person B. Not everyone's going to have the same information. Therefore, it's not all going to be ready at the same time. So the ATO have actually just been putting out some stuff, which it's good and bad. So the deadline for turning the information tax ready, so finalizing their single touch payroll for businesses, was meant to be the 14th of July. But that's actually been moved. They're given some concessions due to the current pandemic that's going on, and now saying the 31st of July. So your employer does actually have up until the 31st of July to turn the information tax ready. Now, you can do your return without it being tax ready, but you're going to run the risk that that information isn't accurate, and therefore the refund or payment that you end up with may not be correct. You may then need to do an amendment, and that's when the ATO are not going to, they're not going to be as lenient on you. They're not going to go, oh, well, bad luck, we'll just go with what you filed. That's where you could potentially get fines if you've misled them and things like that. So you just don't want to go down that path. Or if you're using an agent, do you want to pay them to re-amend your return? You might as well wait till it's tax ready. You've got those deadlines. It's not that long. And then it depends what other information. Like I said, I think it's the end of October, middle of October, when some of these managed funds and stuff can still be giving their information to the ATO. So it's just going to depend what type of things are involved in your return as to when you're going to be able to do it. So it's just a few things that you need to keep in mind. So don't go rush out and do it on 1st of July if it's not ready to be done. And then also you need to be careful is what information is the ATO system pulling through. So if you're doing your own return, making sure that it's pulling through those income for all the jobs. And if you notice a job is missing, then you need to follow that up because potentially they haven't been reporting it, or you need to find out what's going on there. So don't just ignore things and go, oh, well, it's not there. It's not going to matter. And then the same goes, the interest is a common one that people forget, or they forget they've earned interest on their bank accounts and all that kind of stuff. So they're just a few of the tips I can give you on when can you actually do your return. So yeah, that's a good comment coming through here. So definitely worth waiting a week or two to avoid a potential headache. And it's definitely true. So don't go and rush it through if it means you're going to have to amend it later. It's just not worth it, to be honest. And then that's going to lead into what I'm saying next is when does the ATO start processing returns? And typically from history, I would say the first lot of refunds don't start coming through till probably anywhere from the 7th of July onwards normally. So getting through and rushing through isn't necessarily going to get you your refund back. You're not going to get your refund on 1st of July. That's just the reality of it. The ATO aren't processing refunds at that date. So that first week, there isn't a real rush to get things done if your information's not ready. And I know I keep repeating that, but it's, I've had people asking for probably the last 3 to 4 weeks of, oh, well, when can I get my return done? And I have to give them the same answer. You need to wait till it's ready. So, And the reason why it takes this time to happen is that the financial year, when it comes to salary and wage, is based on when those payments are made. So if you got paid today, your employer can't have finalized things until at least today. So they're probably going to then take a couple of days to, check things off and that kind of stuff. So don't be in a huge rush in that situation. So, and again, like I said, if the ATO aren't processing refunds to a certain date, there's no rush. And it's not like if you get in on the 1st of July, that means you're going to be first in the queue. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes it can be, I've lodged multiple returns on the same day before for different clients, and the refunds can massively vary in when they get processed. They can be weeks apart. Just depends on how well it gets caught up in the ATO system, how quick it gets processed, how complex it is, and obviously then whether it gets flagged as being outside of the benchmarks and things like that. So the next thing I do want to talk about is, are you using a tax agent? So this will go into a little bit of due dates, but go and check out the video I released on last Sunday talking about, do you need to use an accountant? So I gave some real honest feedback from my opinion as an accountant, because I think there are genuinely people that don't need to use an accountant. If you've got a really basic tax return and you know how to fill out the form, that's key. Is it don't feel like you need to do your own return if you're really uncomfortable with doing it. Like, you might as well pay someone to do it, save yourself the hassle if you feel like you're not doing it right. But if you feel like you can accurately fill out the form, you don't feel like it's overly complex, there isn't anything else you think to add, then sure, go ahead and do it. But I did break down that video and talked about, okay, how much are you actually paying to get your return done? And how much in extra deductions would your accountant need to come up with to cover that fee? So if your whole reason that you think, I know everything, but I want to go to an accountant because I think they may know a few things I didn't know, well, then you can think about doing that. But as I said in that video, that's not the only reason why you might use a tax agent. Is that, one, it's the time. Do you want to sit there and actually fill out this return? Typically, I would say a tax return for me, when I'm doing it with a client, the meeting normally goes for probably between 15 minutes and 30 minutes on average. Is that going to take you longer? Is it going to take you 2 or 3 hours to fill it out yourself? If you're coming across questions, you think, I'm sitting there doing these day in, day out, obviously I'm going to start getting pretty quick at filling these forms out. I know what's got to go in. You doing it yourself might take you longer. And what's your time worth to you? So what is your time? How long is it going to take you to fill out the form and then to do the research? Are you going to have to go through every type of deduction and go, oh, is this claimable? Do research, 10 minutes on that one, 10 minutes on that one. And next minute you've spent 3 or 4 hours. And if you value your time at $40, $50 an hour, suddenly you're going, oh, wow, I've spent a lot of time on this, and maybe I should have just paid the $50 or $79 or $150 for it, whatever it's going to cost. So that's just something I think, go check out that detailed video, but definitely don't get caught up on either side of you have to use an agent or you don't have to use an agent. You get people that say, oh, just do it yourself. No, it's fine. Go to the cheapest person you can find. Go to the dearest person you can find. Everyone's going to have their own opinion. Everyone's situation is going to be different. Do what's right for you. And don't be afraid that if you did it last year yourself, you can go to an agent this year. If you used an agent last year and you don't feel like they helped you, go to someone else. And the one thing I did want to tell people is make sure if you are going to an agent, one, that they are an actual tax agent. So make sure they've got a tax agent number. And two, that they can answer your questions. Obviously, if you're paying someone to do a service, you want them to be able to answer the questions you've got, explain to things to you in a way that makes sense to you. So if you end up with a payable amount, or they ask you a question about, can you claim this? And they make sure they can actually answer your questions, because it's my biggest frustration when I hear from clients that they've gone to someone and they haven't even explained things, and they didn't understand it. And when they asked, they just brushed over it. And, it was all about a number and just getting through the appointment as quick as possible and getting on to the next one. That's not service. If you're paying for a service, make sure you're getting service. That's my biggest thing. So that's a good comment. Cheapest doesn't always mean best. So there's going to be a variance in tax returns. Cheapest doesn't always mean it isn't going to be good quality. Just because something's more expensive doesn't mean it's going to be that, but it goes both ways. So I've seen tax returns advertised. I was only looking at tonight from some place and they're offering them for $29. Again, I don't know. They might do a great job. I don't know. $29 is extremely cheap, and that's not going to leave them much time to do it. I don't know whether it'd even be being done in Australia, unfortunately, but there's definitely a range of price. There'll be returns upwards of $300 for the exact same service. But again, we're getting the same result. Sorry, we're getting the same service done, but what is the actual service you're getting? So yeah, that's just a few things I want to touch on. And obviously, I do want to touch on my business, Rooshock Accounting. I don't plug it too often on this channel, but I do want to talk about it. So we're definitely offering tax returns. I'll be starting. I've got a few in a pile over there to start on tomorrow. So $79 is our basic fee for a basic tax return. We do have extra prices for rental properties and stuff. All of that's on our website. You can get in touch with us via Facebook. So I can see we've got some watching over on Facebook at the moment. We've got people on YouTube. So I do appreciate anyone that supports my business, and I hope then I can support you back by giving you a service that you honestly feel like is really top quality. And I've had a lot of feedback last year. So last year was my first tax time doing this on my own business, and I got a lot of positive feedback, and that really made me feel like, well, at least I'm helping people. I'm providing value well and beyond the fees I'm charging and doing the services that they generally felt like I'd helped them. So now, I did mention before, I did want to make an offer for those that have, joined me live, supported me week in, week out in these lives, that if you do want me to do your tax return and you're watching this live, so it doesn't count for those watching replay, but go over, message the Rooshock Accounting Facebook page during this live. So I'll probably be on for another 15 minutes. So you've got a 15-minute window here, and that $79 fee will come down to $50. So that's exclusive for those few people that are watching live tonight, that if you do want to lock in that $50 return, you don't have to get it done now. Just chuck us a message. We'll keep you on a list and you'll lock in that $50 return. That's just to say thank you for supporting me on these lives. But the one catch is you do need to be subscribed to me over on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to me over there. If you don't have a YouTube account, go and make one. It's really easy. You make the Google account, hit subscribe, and chuck the Rooshock Accounting page a message on Facebook. Just say, heard the offer on the live, want to get it done. So I do appreciate anyone that's watching live, and that really means a lot to me. So I hope that's been interesting on the tax time stuff. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what kind of people I deal with. I love dealing with a range of different people over the time. So I appreciate that and appreciate you listening on that. So what I'll do is I will jump into a couple questions I had. I thought I had one question during the week. So I'll jump into that. And if anyone does have any questions, make sure you chuck them in the comments while we've got people on here. And I'd really appreciate that. So I've got, do you need to wait for a payment summary from your employer? So quite interesting, because I did talk about that a little bit earlier. So not always. It's just going to depend. We're transitioning in here in Australia from the old payment summary, which previously was referred to as group certificates. We then went to payment summaries. We've now gone to the single touch payroll system. So I believe on the MyGov, they're called income statements. So what you're looking for, like I said, is when is that finalized? And typically you will not receive anything from your employer. So I know when I produce these for clients, I can't print a payment summary like I could in the past for them to give out to them. So it really does suck for those that maybe don't have computers, some of the older generation that don't have a computer and are so used to getting paper copies. And that's what triggers people to go, oh, that's when I can do my return. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that anymore. So the easiest way to check if your payment summary, which is now called single touch payroll income statement, is ready for you to lodge your return, is go onto your MyGov account and you'll be able to see whether it says tax ready or not, or check with your tax agent. So send your tax agent a message, give them a call, say, look, is this ready? But like I said before, employees now do have up until the 31st of, we've got to the 31st of July to get them done. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, you won't physically receive a payment summary, but they're asked, just to make it nice and confusing. And I did touch on it earlier. It has been government departments in the past, which is really frustrating. Some places will still issue a payment summary. Just depends on what system they're using. That information should still go onto your MyGov or your MyTax, or whatever it's called, when you're doing your return, or through your agent. But it might not take a little bit longer. It just depends. Again, they're still going to file something digitally. It's just through a different system. So that kind of covers on payment summaries, group certificates, single touch payroll, income statements. It's all a little bit confusing, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure all your jobs, the income and the taxes held, fringe benefits, employee super contributions, it's all in there. It's all in your return, so you can get that accurate. So I do have a couple of questions coming through. So how accurate is Binance order history from spot orders? It doesn't give all my orders for some reason. So we're talking about crypto here. So this is something that does frustrate me a little bit with Binance, that it's such a big platform and there's so much things going on. And therefore, sometimes the reporting can be a little bit messy. So unfortunately with Binance, there's a few different spots you have to jump into to get all of your data consolidated. So this would be when you're trying to put it into a Coinly, coin tracking, coin tracker, crypto tax calculator. You want to make sure that when you've connected the API, you have an understanding of what is going to be automatically brought in and what's not. And then when you're trying to piece together the rest of it with potentially CSV files or something like that, is that capturing everything? So I know in Binance, there's a few different sections you can go that are going to give you the different records depending on whether you're doing spot trading or whether you're trading with fiat. And I have had a few clients that have actually contacted Binance directly and got them to give them a full history of all of their trades and all their transactions, so deposits, withdrawals. And that CSV has been really detailed and really good. So that would be my suggestion, is to contact Binance and go down the path of going, okay, yeah, I want to get that full history so that then you can bring that into your crypto tax software. So yeah, so that would be my thoughts on that one there. So yeah, but don't rely necessarily off one report. And always, whenever you're trying to work things out, my biggest trick that I tell people is you want to check each wallet by each asset. So you want to go, okay, in Binance, I should have 3 Bitcoin. What's my crypto software saying? Oh, it's saying 2.5. Okay, something's missing somewhere along the line. If those figures don't match, obviously an in or an out is going to be missing somewhere along the line. And you want to try and find where's that transaction history. And Binance can be a little bit messy to play around with to find that. So got another question here. So do you mine crypto? If not, have you considered it? No, I don't mine crypto. I definitely have considered it in the past. I wish I'd done it 6 or 7 years ago when I first heard about it. And, you know, remember speaking to friends and going, you know, well, mining crypto and really getting your head around, well, what the hell is mining crypto? Like, how are you going to mine a Bitcoin? What is a Bitcoin? What is mining? So didn't touch it. I just haven't had the time to actually look into it. And I know it's not as profitable now for some assets as what it used to be. I've definitely got some clients that have done it. So I only spoke to a client this morning, quite in depth about mining crypto business. So I do love talking about it and have got some knowledge about it, but I'm not actively involved in it. And I don't know whether my computing power that I've got would ever hold up to make it profitable. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting space. And as I've spoken to clients about it, things are going to change. There's going to be different assets that become profitable to mine. The assets and, you know, the behind the scenes of how some of these cryptos work changes over time. You know, when they have forking events or updates and things like that, things change, and it might change how that asset is mined as far as, is it still worth it? Are the rewards going to still be the same thing? So just because something's not profitable now doesn't mean it's not going to be profitable in the future. And same goes the other way. And the other thing with mining crypto is it can be, what are you doing with it? Are you going to convert it straight into other assets? Are you mining something you think, I think that's going to go up in value? I don't have the money to keep pumping in, but I want to mine it. I'm not going to make huge dollars off it, but I want to get more of that asset. I want to accumulate it for the long term. So there's lots of different approaches, and it's definitely an interesting thing. And for those who don't know what crypto mining is and stuff, go and watch a YouTube video on it, because it's just really interesting. The technology behind all this blockchain technology is really fascinating, and it's just crazy to think this is where we're at, because 10, 15 years ago, I don't think people would have ever thought these kind of things could exist. And now to see so many different ways that these things are working is really interesting. So now we'll get into another question here in a second, but I have had a couple of people already message me. I can see them popping up. So again, for those that are watching live, there is that offer just for tonight of $50 for your tax return instead of the $79, just exclusive for those watching live. So I thought I'd just drop that one more time. So I do appreciate the few that I can see have already messaged me. So the next question I had come through here was, before I jump to that one, motivation session. Thank you for always supporting on here. So absolute legend. Thank you. We'll message him. So yeah, anyone that has got Binance, get onto Binance directly. See what you can do to pull together that. There are some reports you can generate yourself, and you might be able to piece it all together. So I know personally I haven't used Binance a lot, but I was able to get it all. But I was onto it from day one, because I obviously knew I needed to track all this stuff. So if you're trying to get old data, especially if it's multiple years, get onto them and see what you can get out of them, because it can be a little bit time consuming trying to manually get it, because they have some really silly limits on only being able to produce 3 months of data at a time and only being able to generate that 4 times each month. So to do a year, you can only pull out 1 year of data each month, which if you're doing multiple years can be a bit frustrating. So I do have one more question here. If anyone else does have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and I will get to them. So I've got, when did you first get started investing with crypto, what drew your attention to them? So my crypto investing journey started in, I believe, early December 2017. So quite close to the peak. I also started investing at shares at a similar time. So it was more so I'd played it around with, researching these things over years, never actually jumped into them and going, you know what, I want to start investing. Finally was in the financial position where I could. And that was a key thing, that until you're in the financial position where you feel like you can invest without risking money you don't want to lose, don't do it. So I jumped into some ASX shares and a couple US shares, and then thought, okay, well, how do I buy Bitcoin? I keep hearing about it, heard about it for a long time. How do I buy it? And the first exchange I used was Coinbase, which was an overseas exchange, but at the time that seemed to be the easiest exchange to get started on. They had an app, so you could easily go in and easily buy, with Australian dollars. So I was able to load Australian dollars in there. And I think my first purchases, I think I bought $100 of Bitcoin, $100 of Ethereum, and $100 of Litecoin, because that's what was available through their app at the time. Then I went into CoinSpot, and I think there was another one. I can't remember what it was called. A couple of different exchanges back then, and played around with it. Never put huge money in, but yeah, it was interesting because I did watch my portfolio go up probably 40 to 50% within about a month, and thought, wow, this is great. And then saw a massive drop off. So yeah, it was quite an interesting first introduction to crypto. I haven't been overly active in actual investing myself with it. Again, it's a risky asset. You need to do your own research to see all those kind of things. But I still do hold that initial Bitcoin I bought. So that $100 worth of Bitcoin, I think from memory, Bitcoin was about 25 to 30,000 AUD back then. Might even been slightly lower. So yeah, that's still going up over time. So yeah, quite a interesting start to my journey, as plenty have. And it's been really good because I've been able to speak to clients that started in 2017 as well. So there's quite a few of us that got in, unfortunately, close to a peak then, and then had to ride out a couple barren years where there wasn't a lot going on. So yeah, interesting. So yeah, that was where I first started with crypto. So if people are interested in that kind of stuff, I'm happy to do more videos talking about that. I won't ever individually recommend certain products, because that's one, I can't do that legally, and two, I don't think it's ethically right for me to go, oh, I think Bitcoin could reach this value, or I think this share Afterpay could double in value. I don't think any of those things. I'm not an expert. I'm not going to be able to successfully predict those things. I don't want to lead people down the wrong path, and that's why I don't ever recommend and go, oh, these are my favorite cryptos, or these are that. So yeah, just be a bit careful on that. I could potentially talk about something of a project and go, this project interests me, but from a value point of view, it's really up to you to do your own research on those things. But yeah, that's where I started with crypto. So I've got one here. So how does salary sacrificing affect my tax return and the overall refund I can get back? So this is a really interesting one. It's a really common question, and it is something I've got on my list of videos. So I've got I think I use an app called Trello, where I actually keep track of all the videos I want to do. So if anyone does have any suggestions, chuck them in a comment. But salary sacrificing is a bit more in depth, so it is something I want to talk about in a full video. But the basics of it is that when you're salary sacrificing, what's going to happen from your point of view is you're pretty much receiving tax-free income as such. So what's happening is that when you're receiving your pay, typically you'll get, $1,000 in your pay, and then you might get $500 paid onto a salary sacrifice card that you can use just like a normal credit card. I've seen clients get it paid straight into a bank account, and I've seen them salary sacrifice for certain things, whether that's phone or things like that. So what's going to happen is when you get your payment summary, income statement is finalized, it's going to have gross income, your tax withheld, and it's going to have a reportable fringe benefits amount. So this is your this is your salary sacrifice amount. Now, where it gets confusing is this amount, it does not match the dollar figure you've received. So this gets complex, but we've got what's called a gross up factor. So pretty much this amount here is normally typically going to be close to double what you've actually received. So if you've received closer to that maximum one of about $15,000 to $16,000 in salary sacrifice benefits, that figure is going to show close to the $30,000. So that's why people get confused and go, well, I didn't receive that. No, that's not how it works. Unfortunately, it's a really complex system. I don't like it. I don't like the fringe benefit system. I don't know the solution, but I think it is overly complex for businesses and for individual taxpayers. But what's going to happen? That's going to go on there. Now, that shouldn't affect your actual tax refund on a real basic thing. So your tax withheld is still going to be your tax withheld. Your income is still going to be income, which is going to be less than what you've actually earned because you've obviously had this split of what was salary sacrificed. So your taxable income should be lower. Where you can get caught out is adjusted taxable incomes and other measures that factor in the fringe benefits amount. So Hex Debts is a big one. So pretty much the reason why, and again, a lot of these things, each situation is going to be different. But you'll hear people go, oh, don't salary sacrifice if you got a Hex Debt. That isn't always true. You are still going to probably be in a better position when we're looking at pure tax benefits because you're going to pay less tax. You will pay more off your Hex Debt potentially, but that is a repayment of a debt. So it's not going to affect your refund for a real basic return. Well, it shouldn't. But if you've got other things such as a Hex Debt, yes, you could end up in the position where you actually may have a tax bill, but that may be made up of extra Hex repayments that maybe weren't factored into your ongoing withholding through your wage system. So that's the main way that salary sacrificing can negatively affect your refund is some of the other things such as Hex Debts. So it's just something to keep in mind that salary sacrificing can make things a little bit more complex, but if you want to speak to an accountant or do a bit of research and have a look at, are you in a better position overall? Because that's what you want to look at better. Have I paid more or less tax by doing this? And normally, in most situations, by salary sacrificing, you're going to pay less tax. So how can you check how much you have left on your student loans? So if you do have a Hex Debt, you can check that through your MyGov account, or you can contact your tax agent, and they'll be able to check that for you. So it is quite simple. Go on your MyGov, go speak to your agent, and they should be able to let you know how much is left owing on your Hex Debt. And just be aware that those payments that you're having withheld each week through the tax system aren't actually being paid off until you lodge your return. It's just in the form of extra tax withheld each week. And then when you lodge your return, that reconciles everything and works out, okay, how much do you need to pay? Because the repayments to your Hex Debt are based off your taxable income. So it's a percentage, it's a tiered scale. So the more you earn, the higher that percentage becomes. And that payment will be processed once your whole tax, your notice of assessment is assessed and your tax return is filed and all that processing is done. That's when it'll hit your Hex Debt account and you'll be able to see the movement in that. And that goes the same for your other student loans and stuff as well. So just be aware that you're not going to see that straight away until your return's being processed. And it's only going to change once a year. And then obviously when it gets indexed and it increases by CPI. So that's just a few things to consider with Hex and student loans, that they're not getting updated each week like some people think they are. They think they're paying it off as they go. You're just having extra tax withheld, and then it all gets reconciled when you lodge your return. That comes out with the final figure because it's impossible to know what your taxable income is until you've lodged your tax return. So I hope that's been helpful. If we don't have any other questions coming in, I just want to thank everyone that has supported me through the last 9 months of this YouTube channel. We've come all the way up to tax time. So the whole point of me doing this channel is to create a catalog of content that can help clients, can provide value to people. So I really love when I get suggestions of topics to cover. And I've really covered a real range of topics, from basic tax tips to just general personal finance, and me talking about, the best things I've spent my money on, the worst things I've spent my money on, buying a house, all those kind of things. I've talked a lot about crypto and crypto tax. And I've got a whole range of more topics I want to cover going forward. I want to talk more about businesses and obviously I've started to cover different industries of tax returns. So we've talked about nurses and teachers and things like that. And I love doing these lives every Wednesday night. Hopefully that will keep up during the next couple months. While I am going to be a little bit busier, I'll see how things go. So at this stage, we'll be back on again next Wednesday. Hopefully have another video go up Sunday. And as I said, I really appreciate anyone that supported me. And if you do need any help, I'd love to speak to more people, love to help them with their tax returns. It's your way of helping support my business, and it's my way of hopefully giving you more one-on-one value and really answering those in-depth questions that you've got. So I really appreciate everyone that's tuned in tonight. We've had some really good numbers, so I really appreciate that. And thank you again. I hope to deal with you during tax time. And if not, I'll see you again next Wednesday on next week's live. Thanks, everyone.